with Tracy in LA. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Dance Journey. Today, we have a very special guest, Reva Pincusoff. Say hi.
Hello, that was excellent. Great pronunciation.
I said her last name.
Good morning, everybody.
So Reva and I have an interesting connection. So we didn't take a class this morning like we usually do. We just kind of are having a nice morning together, hearing each other's stories. And I met Reva in an interesting way. I met this woman named Bev through a party that I went to. I told her about my dance podcast, and she was like, "Oh, I have a good dancer for you." And she told me about Reva, and she told me that Reva was an older woman. Really not. You're really not. But that she used to be a professional ballerina, a ballet dancer, and that she would have like a great story to tell. And I was like, ooh, that does sound cool. So I called her up. We talked on the phone while she was in Costco. And I heard some of her story, and it was really cool. And I felt like she has a lot she could share. A lot of the viewers are kind of younger for the podcast, and I thought as someone with more life experience in dance, she could have a lot to share. So having her on the podcast, excited to hear her story. So Reva, before we go back to how you got started in dance and your journey as a professional dancer, tell us a quick, brief summary of what your life looks like right now.
I'm in retirement, and that's from 2 careers. I highly recommend it. I'm a baby boomer, so we have 2 complete careers. And I'm loving it. I am loving it. I try and stay present in my day. My husband and I have been together for about 30 years.
Wow.
And we just love our life. We're very grateful. We've been very lucky. Everybody's success is very personal. And I'm very proud of him. He's very proud of me. And I just couldn't be happier. I wouldn't want to be another age right now.
Wow. You guys seem happy. I just met her husband at her house, and they're so cute. And
yeah, he's great. He's one of the last of the good guys. He
I
really
know, right?
is. He really is. It's amazing.
That's awesome. I love to hehere stories like that. Okay, so take us back, Reva. And you might have told me on the phone, but obviously nobody else knows about your life yet. So where did you grow up? Did you grow up in California?
I was born in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
In Canada.
Okay.
I came to the States when I was 5.
Oh, nice. And that was parents got a job or?
My father was from New York. My mother was from Montreal. My father had a small band that they used to play in the nightclubs. And he came up to Montreal, where they have a lot of clubs, and he was playing there, and he met my mom. And long story short, I was born after I was 5 years old. They decided to go to New York and visit some relatives, and very soon after that came out to California.
Wow, okay. So you pretty much grew up here. And was it Southern California?
Yes, we were in Southern California, and I was here till I was about almost 16.
Okay. So tell me, being out here, how did you first get started in dance, in ballet?
I watched when I was having a birthday. I was going to be turning 9 years old, and I saw the Red Shoes on television.
Oh.
The Red Shoes, and I asked if I could have a ballet class.
Wow.
And my parents said, yes, but you have to be disciplined. If you're going to go to a ballet class, you have to practice every day. And I said, deal.
Wow.
I can do that.
That's a good deal. 9 years old, I feel like when I was 9, that's when I started asking about acting classes and stuff like that. So I think when you're 9, it's a good, solid age to start figuring out what you're interested in.
Yes. My mom and dad always said you were born 40, so by the time you were 9,
really?
You were very ready to do so, because I was a little tomboy.
Oh,
and I was always outside in Southern California, so ballet was great because it burned off a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I took it very seriously.
Do you remember, because 9 isn't that young, do you remember your first class or your kind of early days in ballet?
It was it was a Russian ballet studio.
Okay.
And
does it still exist?
No.
Okay.
No, nor do the teachers that were there. It was a long time ago. But, I did love it. And I was there. That was the classes. When I was 12, I went on point.
Really? When you were 12?
I was 12 years old. I was on point. That was very, very serious.
Yeah.
And then when I was 13, I got a scholarship to another studio
Okay.
in Long Beach. Valerie Silvered, she had students that had gone to American Ballet Theater.
Oh, wow.
And so we moved to Long Beach.
Oh, wow. So your parents were like dedicated.
Yeah,
like,
I was
this
an
is what she's
only
doing.
child till I was 6.
Okay.
So we came to Long Beach, and yes, I was there from 13 years old till I was almost 16.
Wow. And was that really great training?
It was wonderful training. We did a lot of performing. I got private lessons. I also got history lessons on Sundays. I would
wow.
go to my teacher's home, and we would have history lessons about composers and dancers and dance
wow.
history. I had that every Sunday for 1 hour.
Do that with other students, or was that like a special thing you got?
I was getting prepared because she knew people at the Royal Ballet School
Okay.
and the Royal Ballet, and I was preparing for an audition.
Wow.
So I auditioned there. First of all, when I was young, when I was 13, I auditioned for San Francisco Ballet, and they said, "We'll take you next year. You're a little young."
When you were 13,
When
you
I was
auditioned?
13, they said, "No, we have to
Wow.
wait one more year."
Do they usually take kids that are 14?
Yeah, they were going to take me when I was very young.
Okay.
But then, because I was Canadian, I had my green card. The Royal Ballet was very interested because I could get a scholarship there because I was part of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
One of the Commonwealth
Okay,
countries. So I could get a
yeah.
full scholarship. So they said, we can't take you until you're 15, almost 16, because you're going
Okay.
to go to the upper school. And I was like, okay.
So you had choices.
Yeah. I waited a long time. It was very nerve-wracking. I waited a long time to hear before I knew if I was accepted.
And were you in high school? Were you going to high school?
I was a year ahead in school.
Okay.
So when I was 16, yes, it was my my second year in high school. Yes, it was my second year in high school. But they had the audition at the Greek Theater.
Okay.
And they were having a performance of Swan Lake, and so I took class with the company on stage, and then they let us stay for the performance. And then I had to
Wow.
wait 3 months to get an answer because they were still touring and they weren't back in London yet.
Wow.
So
was that just so hard to like
yes, because my parents
anticipate?
said if you don't get the scholarship and things don't pan out with San Francisco Ballet School, I love school. I was a good student. They said, then you have to try and get a scholarship for college.
Oh yeah, that would really have shifted your direction.
Yeah. So,
But would you not have tried to get in other ballet companies if it didn't work out?
The only other one I would have probably been interested in, maybe Juilliard, of course, in New
Yeah.
York. But it was really, really hard. When you go to New York, a parent has to come with you or a guardian
Oh,
for
okay.
sure. Even when I went to the Royal Ballet School, though, I had to have a guardian over there legally.
Okay.
Legally, I had to have a guardian.
But then you got in, right?
Then I got in,
Okay.
and then you're like, being star of Dolly Dinkle School of Dance, when you go to the Royal Ballet School, you have global competition, and everybody is as talented as the next person
yeah.
next to you. So,
How did that feel? Was that like a totally
loved
different?
it. No,
Okay.
I love the competition.
Okay.
I
It
love the
pushed you.
competition. Yes, yes, and I was in a class. It was a small class, and it was preparing you for something called the graduate class.
Okay.
Where you got to perform with the company and things like that. So then you have to take all of your exams. It's called the Royal Academy of Dance, and you have to take all these exams.
Written exams?
No, this is dance
Oh, okay,
exams.
okay. I was like, wait.
Dance exams,
Yes.
right? So you take these dance exams by yourself in a room, in your tights and leotard. You've learned a syllabus, and there's judges, and you either pass or fail.
Wow, really?
And it gets posted.
Can you give us a little description of like what one of those exams was kind of like, or some of the things you had to do?
You became very used to being watched at the Royal Ballet School.
Okay.
The classes are in rooms that have big windows, and there's always somebody coming to watch, so you get very used to being observed. So you're not afraid of someone watching you.
Okay.
And you're not afraid of performing your exercises under pressure.
Okay.
But like anything else, there is certain criteria, and it's a pass-fail. If you do very well, you could get a commended.
Okay.
And if you do super well, you can get honors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
and
it's
what does that
exceptional.
like mean? Does it just kind of give you a better chance to be with the company?
Yeah,
or?
well, it gives you the step up to get into that final graduate class, so you can
Okay.
start performing with the company.
Okay.
So they look at that. They look at those, and then once you do your You have to do your beginners, you do your intermediate, and you do your advanced, and you have to do solo seals.
What's solo
which
seals?
You have a tights and leotard, your point shoes on, and a little tutu. And you learn solos, and you go on a stage, and you perform them, and you are judged by a judge. And you get ratings. You can pass, fail, or you can get a bronze, silver, or gold medal.
And you didn't really have a lot of nerves about it, it sounds like.
No.
But then did you generally do really well? Did you ever have one that you were like, oh, just something bad happened?
No.
Or it was always good?
It's just part of our curriculum.
Yeah.
You did everything from dance history, makeup. You did all of your solo classes. You did your technical classes. You did your pas de deux, which is 2 people.
Yeah.
And you were just so busy. It's just, and I had classes even half a day on Saturdays. I had character classes on Saturdays. And then
Did you have Sundays off?
Sundays you had off.
Okay.
And I lived with a family that took in several of the dancers.
Okay.
And so we lived all together. And
How was that? Did you enjoy that living situation?
it was okay.
or-
You get homesick because I was, you're away from home. I never came home.
Yeah.
I didn't come home for 2.5 years.
And was that just because you didn't have time, or was
I didn't
it
have
money?
time. My parents didn't have the funds.
Okay.
And so, I was there to do what I could within that period of time. And then they wanted to wait for another year for me to get into the company. And I didn't want to stay in school another year to do all that all over again. And I had gotten another offer. And so...
Wait, because you were there how long already?
I was there almost 2.5 years.
Okay. And do most people, is it between like 2 and 3 years that
Yes.
they... Okay.
Yes.
And they want you to wait another
senior
year.
school. They said, you need one more year because I was 17. And I said, I have to wait until I'm 18.
Was it just about age, or was it something they wanted you to like get
It was just
improve?
maturity and
Okay.
and they didn't have 17-year-olds in the company.
Okay.
But I went when I was young anyway.
Yeah.
So I was going. We had several directors come through and look at students and start picking students that they were interested for the companies. And one of them was the Royal Winnipeg Ballet.
Okay.
And the director there, Arnold Spohr, says, I have a place for you next year. I'd love for you to come.
Wow.
And so I made all of my arrangements in order to do that because I did not want to stay a student another year.
Wow.
And
You were ready.
then I ended up going back to Montreal, visiting a couple of my family members because I hadn't seen them in a long time. And I got a telegram that said the position's not open anymore.
What?
So when I was in
How
Montreal,
does that happen?
The dancer that was supposed to retire didn't retire. It happens.
Oh my
But here I am in
gosh.
Montreal, and so I was still taking classes because I had to stay in shape.
Yeah.
So in Montreal, there was a class. It was Les Grands Ballets Canadiens, which is the big company in Montreal.
Okay.
And I went in, and I went up to the table and said, I'm here for the class. And they said, fine, go in there. And I went to the bar, and there was a lot of people in the room, and I took a class. I took the class, and the people watching came up to me and said, what's your number? And I
Wow.
said, what's my number? I said, you don't have a number on your leotard. This is an audition.
Oh wait, you didn't even know it was an audition? I thought you meant number like phone number at first.
And I said, this is an
whoa.
audition? Because they all had them on their backs, and I wasn't
You didn't
concentrating on
notice,
the other
yeah.
dancers. And they said, oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter. But anyway, we want to offer you a contract.
Was your first class that you went to? Like
It was
after
an audition, yes.
Oh, that
And
was
I
an
took
audition.
a class. And they said, we're going, and they did the rock opera Tommy, which was famous and toured Canada and the U.S.
Oh, okay.
The rock opera, Tommy, the big movie. The director was doing the rock opera Tommy. And we went to New York and Chicago.
Wow. So that's what they cast you in.
But they were doing a lot of other, of course, classical, because it was a classical. Although
Okay.
it was rock opera, it was classical. So
Wow,
they
how
said,
cool.
and I said, well, I said, well, yeah, how old are you? And I'll be 18 soon. I'm 17. They was perfect. I said, well, when do you want me to start? I can start. And they said, when can you start? And I said, right now. I can start today.
You're like, actually, my life has worked out where I'm very free right now.
I called my parents, hello, I'm not coming home. I'm in Montreal,
Wow.
and I have a job, and I'm starting.
That's so cool that you had like,
I was really happy.
disappointment, but then like a cool opportunity pretty quickly. I can't believe that you went to that and didn't even realize it was an audition and didn't have a number.
I was trying to process the fact that
Yeah.
here I was.
Yeah. You're kind
That
of like
wasn't
sad,
happening,
right?
And what was I going to do? So class is therapeutic and
Yeah.
sort of, kind of massage myself, my mind and my emotions. And that's what, dance a lot is about, is that for me. And so I got started. I was with the company for almost 3 years. And it was kind of the same story. Another director saw me performing, and he was the choreographer from Pennsylvania Ballet,
Okay.
which was a sister company to New York City Ballet in
okay.
Philadelphia. And he says, I'm doing choreography, and I want to offer you a contract to come
Wow.
as a soloist. I was already a soloist.
Okay.
So as a soloist and then a principal.
Hi, everyone. So I wanted to tell you about my new book, The Tracy in LA Newsletters 2010. This is my very first memoir. There will be more. It's not like a normal memoir where you're looking back on your life and reflecting on it and writing a book about it. It's more like a memoir in real time. So basically, when I very first moved to LA to pursue acting, which was in 2009, I decided I was going to write these like monthly newsletters where I sent out actual letters in the actual mail to a bunch of my friends every month to give them updates on what I was doing with acting and jobs and friendships and all kinds of things that I was going through my very first time ever living in LA. It ended up being pretty humorous, and so I've basically gone back and edited them so that I could publish them as a book. So that's what this is, and yeah, if you want to be entertained and have a good laugh, buy my book, or if you just want to help me pay my rent next month. Oh, and you can get it on Amazon. The Tracy in LA Newsletters 2010 by Tracy Nicole. Nicole is my middle name. Also, there's a link in my Instagram bio. You can get it paperback or on Kindle.
And so I went to Philadelphia. I was almost there for...
What's the difference between a soloist and a principal?
The principal is the highest level.
Okay.
Of
Soloist
status.
is like right
yes,
below
you
that.
go in a court of ballet.
Yes.
Which is, you learn you learn everything you need to learn, and you start doing solos. And
Okay.
that starts working your way up, and then the principal is...
Okay. And so you weren't a principal in your current company.
I was a soloist. I went in as Cora, then went into as the soloist, got offered principal, but decided to go to Pennsylvania Ballet. It was really the big company to go to.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And this was
so you moved again?
This is like 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a little gypsy. I must have bought and sold the same toaster several times in my career, because what dancers do, they only want their dance bag on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And you go into usually someone else's apartment.
Yeah.
And it's fully furnished.
Yeah, so you don't need it.
here, $300, everything in the apartment is yours.
Yeah.
So that same toaster, I'm sure, that I bought and sold several times in my career.
That's funny.
Because you're just a little gypsy.
Did you ever... Well, okay, first of all, with the Pennsylvania company, was that... Tell me about that. What kind of stuff did they do? Or did it feel different for you?
Ballet was, because it was a little bit of a sister company to New York City Ballet, so it was all Balanchine.
Okay.
It's all Balanchine technique. You do all the Balanchine repertoire.
And was that the first time that you were in a company like that?
Yes. So
Okay.
I learned, Le Grand Ballet had a few of the Balanchine. Every ballet company has at least one or two Balanchine ballets.
Okay.
Because it's very classical.
Yeah.
And I loved Pennsylvania Ballet. It was my home for about 6 years.
Wow.
And I loved it there.
So that was the longest company you were with.
I did everything. Yes, I
At the
did
time,
everything there. It was run by a wonderful woman. Barbara Weisberger was the founders and director. And then she retired, and we got a new director in, and he brought some of his own dancers.
Okay.
So I stayed with him for a year, but it was really a different repertory. And I had one of the students from my studio in Long Beach, who was with American Ballet Theater. There, she contacted me and says, I'm with Eliot Feld, who was from New York City, and he's having an audition. Will you come? Will you come? We hear there's a couple of dancers from the company that are loose and available maybe.
Okay.
So I went to I went to New York City, and I did an audition. I had done an audition for a long time.
Okay, right.
And
6 years.
and it was the same year that Patrick Swayze auditioned. We were in the same audition.
Oh, wow.
And we were in the company together.
Wow, how cool.
Yes. And we must
So you
have,
got it.
Yes, we were kept from the audition. You have a non-union audition, and then if you get picked from that, you get to stay for the union audition
Okay.
and do your audition all over again with a
gosh.
different set of dancers. I remember
Were you a union dancer?
I wasn't union when I went in.
Oh, so that's why you
no.
started as
Then
non.
I-
Because
so
what
I
was
had-
this company?
This was Eliot Feld's company.
Oh,
Eliot
okay.
Feld was a dancer with American Ballet Theater.
Okay.
He was also in the original West Side Story.
Oh, cool.
Right? He was Baby.
Okay, wow.
And he was from American Ballet Theater, and he started his own company.
Okay.
And he had several dancers from ballet theater. And so he was having an audition, and his ballet mistress and lead dancer was someone from my school, Christine Sari. And so I went there. It was a really nice thing to have on your resume. And I didn't know Eliot Feld too well. I knew his work. And I just remember Patrick Swayze called him Buddy.
Okay.
We were so tired after 4 days. We were sitting underneath the bar against the wall going, do we have a contract or not? Are we keep rehearsing? Did anyone? Then we were so tired.
Wait, so you didn't even know if you were
We
in
weren't
it?
even sure. Elliot just kept saying, come back tomorrow.
Oh, that's funny.
Come back tomorrow.
Okay.
Come back tomorrow. And finally the ballet mistress said, Elliot, are you giving these guys a contract or not? They're still here. And he says, oh my gosh, I told you to sign them 3 days ago.
Oh, that's funny. You guys are just working so hard. You're like, I don't even know what's going on,
We're
but I'm
like,
just
I'm
here.
not really sure what's
That's
going on. We just
funny.
kept showing up.
That's so funny. So how long were you with that company?
I stayed with Elliot for a year.
Oh, only a year?
I only stayed with him a year. He had pretty much his core of dancers.
Okay.
He had his real core of dancers that he used.
Okay.
And I had an offer to go back to Les Grands Ballets Canadiens
Okay.
because there was a choreographer coming from Winnipeg Ballet that was doing some new works. He
Okay.
was doing some beautiful works. And I went back to do the work with him.
Nice.
And we went on tour, and I really loved him.
Wow.
Brian McDonald.
What
I
did you
a
like?
lot of work for him.
Okay. What did you like specifically about that?
He, there are choreographers just like teachers or just like mentors that you just kind of click with.
Yeah.
Your style, the way you work, your musicality, your talent, they blend with very well, and they kind of feed off of that, and they can, it's really nice to have somebody either create a work for you or their work is just seems to be so suited
Yeah.
to you, and they just kind of see their work come alive.
That's awesome.
And I really, really did love that. That was one thing about Pennsylvania Ballet and this particular choreographer. And we went on tour. I toured a lot. I've been everywhere in the
Yeah,
world.
I'm sure.
I've been everywhere. And then we went on tour to Central and South America.
Wow.
And I was in Caracas, Venezuela.
Okay.
There was a famous billionairess in New York called Rebecca Harkness, and she
Okay.
had the Harkness Ballet.
Okay.
And it was very, very, very well known.
Like she owned it?
Yes,
Okay.
she funded it. She owned it. It rehearsed and was housed in the Harkness House on the east side. And I used to take class there. And long story short, she passed away.
Okay.
The company disbanded a bit, but it relocated because its main choreographer and its prima ballerina were Venezuelan from Caracas.
Okay.
So they got funded for Ballet Internacional de Caracas. And there was a big company in Caracas.
Okay.
And I got an invite to go there because they had
Okay.
seen me when I was at Harkness House. And we toured the world with that company.
Wow.
I went everywhere.
What was one of your favorite places that you went?
We went to, I loved Argentina,
Okay.
Buenos Aires, and I loved Rio,
Okay.
Brazil. It was beautiful. And we actually did a huge U.S. tour,
Okay.
and I stayed there. I was there for 2 years. I came back with Clark Tippett, who is American Ballet Theater principal dancer, and he and I were a couple, a pas de deux couple, and we had an agent.
Oh, nice.
And so I used to do galas and opening for theaters and things like that.
Oh,
I did
nice.
one for Boston Ballet. I went to Boston Ballet because their principal dancer broke her foot, and they called me the night before, and it was an
wow.
all ball and sheen program. And
Was that kind of scary?
Virginia Williams, no, I knew Virginia,
Okay.
and she called Pennsylvania Ballet and said, I need to borrow Reva because my principal dancer is out and we're opening tomorrow night, the new theater. So I flew out, and luckily I fit in all the costumes.
Wow.
I used to borrow costumes from her
Yeah.
for my touring, for my own work. And I just loved it. I came back and did the guesting for a while with an agent, and then I went back to Caracas to finish up another season for them.
And how old were you about, like, around that time?
25.
Okay.
And then when I was at the Royal Ballet School, there was a very famous dancer, Petrus Bosman.
Okay.
And what he was famous for was he had a phenomenal ballet career. But he and the founder and main choreographer of the Royal Ballet, Sir Frederick Ashton, they would do the Ugly Sisters in Cinderella.
Okay.
And they would be hilarious,
Oh my
the
gosh.
audience. And I used to be in the wings as a student watching.
Okay.
And they'd have their lipstick on all cockeyed, and they'd have all these petticoats, and they were just hilarious.
Yeah.
And the petticoats and the bloomers and the underwear was
sounds so fun.
amazing. And they would come off stage, and they would be like, you have to call an ambulance. I cannot breathe. We would put oxygen on
Wow.
them. So Petrus
Oh my
Bosman
gosh.
came to the United States, and he became director of Baltimore Ballet.
Okay.
I don't remember how that all happened, but somehow I ended up in Baltimore. They were opening a new theater, and Petrus was there opening a new season, and I went as a principal dancer, and I did some beautiful work with him
Wow.
for a couple of years, and I did love that. That was really wonderful. I did really, really enjoy that.
Now, doing all these different companies and everything, did you connect easily with, like, your fellow ballet dancers? Like, did you find community pretty easily, or was it hard switching around all the time? And
No, that's basically the life. There are some companies, New York City Ballet, people can stay there forever.
yeah.
American Ballet Theater, it can be their career.
Okay.
But as a rule, you have a contract, and there's no guarantee after that. You try and make a home, but you have to really be very, very flexible and
Yeah.
versatile. And I just really considered myself a gypsy.
Yeah.
When I did get, when I was 27, and I was in Caracas dancing, there was the lighting designer for Joffrey Ballet came
Okay.
to light our season,
Okay.
Tony Tucci. And he couldn't come one year. And I was staying in a company apartment that the company owned, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So whoever was our guest conductor, guest choreographer, whoever, used to stay on it. It was
Oh, okay.
a big suite.
Okay.
And so I knew them all, and we had a guest lighting designer come one year. I ended up marrying him,
Oh.
and he was the lighting designer for Twyla Thorpe
Oh, wow.
and for Jose Limon's
Wow.
company. And so when I came back to New York, after I was done with my season, and he lit Baltimore Ballet,
Okay.
and I was the principal dancer. And then I got a call from Patricia Wilde, who's the big New York City ballet ballerina.
Okay.
And she said, she knew me, and she said, Reva, I'm going to Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. I'm the new director, and I'm doing all ball and chain program. Please come with me.
Oh, wow.
So I went and worked with her for a couple of years, and that was really, really nice. So I commuted. I was in Pittsburgh for the week, and I used to go home on the weekends.
Wow.
Sometimes Paul would come out and light, right? So that's your life. I mean,
Did you date him for a long time in the midst of all of your traveling and being different places?
well, he was there to light the season in Caracas, and so I knew him during that time. He was there for several months. And then we went to City Center in New York City and had a season. We danced at City Center the Grand Ballet, and also Ballet Internacional de Caracas.
Okay.
So I had done several seasons there.
Okay.
And he was lighting, and so I knew him there. So I knew him for a while before we got married. Not years.
Yeah.
It was a while. And then we were some projects we worked together, some projects we worked separately, or we were commuting. He had his work to do with Jose Limon's company who toured, and also with Twyla.
Okay.
And then Twyla kept wanting me to join her company. I don't do good barefoot.
Oh, okay.
Dancers in pointe shoes do not
I
do
struggle
good
with
in
barefoot dancing in my contemporary classes even.
tears up my feet. I cannot do it. And it's just really tough. You just don't know the technique.
Yeah.
So I didn't go the
And
Twyla.
she did everything barefoot.
Yeah, well,
lot of
there's
it.
it's very unique, her
Yeah,
style.
I have seen some of
But
it.
she loves the ballet dancers because of the technique.
Yeah.
And she loves the ability to create on them. And she's done some, and still does, beautiful work, Twyla. Quite lovely. Yeah, she's quite the thing. She's still going strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been so exciting to just have so many different like directors and companies just kind of always asking you to be there with them.
It is being in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It is just being something that you catch somebody's eye. So it's a lot of it is timing. There are a lot of little girls who do a lot of ballet.
Yeah.
But then you get older and you really have to have the personality for the competition.
Yeah.
You have to be pretty tough because sometimes you're all vying for the same role. And, sometimes you don't do auditions for a long time. People just see you performing.
Yeah.
So you rely on that. And then you start getting a little bit older. I retired when I was 35.
Yeah. So now tell us about that. Like, you were obviously doing so well, excelling all the time, loving it, having all these different opportunities. Did there come a point when you obviously you were getting older physically, but like, did there come a point emotionally where you kind of started to feel like, was that a different feeling to be like, to realize you're getting older in this career that's so young? And like, what was that like?
I think what happened is that I had a bucket list. I had a wish list.
Okay.
And these are the rules that I wanted to do
Okay.
before I, packed it in,
Yeah.
so to speak. And I decided that here's my bucket list, and these are the roles that I wanted to do. And I actually was able to accomplish those roles. I did 3 Preludes, which was Ben Stevenson, just a beautiful, beautiful piece. I did all the roles in Swan Lake. I was really
Wow.
classical.
Yeah.
I was really classically
Yeah.
based. And I did all of it and more, and I didn't get injured. And I was like, that
Yeah,
is
you
just
never got injured?
a blessing. I had really good training.
Wow.
The Royal Ballet School, they are so specific
Wow.
to train you, so you really minimize. I
That's awesome.
did not have any major injuries. And it just got to the point where Patricia Wilde called me and said, the next season, what's going to be happening now is that the company is going to be more like Joffrey. There's no corps, there's no soloists, there's no principals.
Oh.
It's just a mishmash. And
Okay.
so you're going to be going into that pool. And most likely you're going to be doing the roles that you did last season. I have a few choreographers that are coming to do some new works, but we're going to do Balanchine again. And at that point in time, I'm 35. I've done everything I've wanted to do. And at the time I was still married, and my husband and I were thinking about at what point in time do we want to start a family?
Yeah.
And so I had an honest conversation, and it just didn't seem like it was something that was going to motivate me. I didn't want it to just go in and phone in my job. But this is what motivated me. I taught at the National Academy of Arts in Champaign, Illinois,
Okay.
which teaches dance, music, voice, acting.
Okay.
And I taught there for several summers for Petrus Bosman.
Oh, okay.
And I taught the advanced class and would call directors to come in to say, I have somebody I think would be really great for summer school for your company. Can you come see them? And during that time, what happened was that especially with Pennsylvania Ballet, we had our own physical therapist.
Okay.
We had a physical therapist that had
Don't most companies have?
Now
Okay.
they do, but this was a long time ago,
Okay.
so it was unique. For Pennsylvania Ballet, we had a little closet with a little curtain and a little table with ultrasound machine, a few
Wow,
hot packs
nice.
and ice packs, and the physical therapist would come in. He said, I'm so-and-so. I want to watch class. I want to understand the mechanism how dancers get hurt. And he would travel with us. I think that's one of the reasons we were never injured.
Yeah, that's great.
So I got interested in physical therapy.
Okay.
That's how I got interested. So when I was starting to think about another season and what that would look like for me, I decided that what I wanted to do was I enrolled in New York University, and I finished all of my liberal arts.
Okay.
Because when I went to the Royal Ballet School, I wasn't going to academics. I still needed to graduate high school.
I know, that's what I was going to ask.
I had
Okay.
to take a GED. I had to learn how to drive when I was 35 because I never did any of those things.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then what happened is physical therapy. That's what I want. I don't want to become an athletic trainer. I don't want to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I had done a lot of that. I want something with a license. So I went to New York University for a year and did all of my liberal arts. And then I applied for a physical therapy program. And it was in Houston. I applied in New York, but my husband was offered the lighting designer job for Houston Ballet.
Oh, nice.
And they had a beautiful program there. I applied, I went to summer school, I got into the program, and I had to then, of course, sit my boards, get my license, and once I did that, I had another whole career going.
Wow.
And that's what I did from then on. I ended up coming back here to California to be with my family because I had been gone for so many years.
Yeah.
So many years.
Did they travel to come see you and things?
They
To a
had come
degree,
to New
or-
York a couple of times to see me dance. Yes, at
Okay.
City Center. Yes, they came there a couple of times. We danced at the Dorothy Chandler
Oh,
and the Shrine
nice. Yeah.
Auditorium, and they came to those performances. That was with Pennsylvania Ballet. Yes, and they had seen me dance.
Okay. But you were finally, so you came back.
I was retired. I had passed my boards. I had my license. And I came back to California.
With your
and-
husband?
No, at
Or
that
was he
point
still in
in
Houston?
time, we had separated at that point
Oh,
in
okay.
time. And on good terms.
Okay.
We were married for a little less than 10 years. And I came back. I was so glad I came back. My father passed away probably about a couple of years after I came home.
Oh, wow.
So I was glad that
It's good
I
that
did
you got
that.
that time, yeah.
Yeah. And I worked at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center for
Okay.
18 years.
Wow. Okay.
So that was really my home. I had a home in Long Beach and with my family.
Did you miss, like, was it a pretty easy transition, or was it hard to just not be dancing all the time anymore?
I think what happened was that I was very, very saturated. I felt very, very satisfied with all the
Okay.
things that I had done. And the important thing was that there was no lapse with the transition. I didn't sit around thinking what I needed to
Yeah.
do to prepare myself. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was already busy. I was going to summer school. I was taking a biology class. I was taking an anatomy class. I was already preparing to try to get into my program. And then I went straight through. I took no break.
Wow.
And then, doesn't matter how well you do academically, if you don't pass your boards, you don't get a
Yeah.
license, you don't
Yeah.
practice. So I'd sit up at night going, oh my gosh, I've got to pass the
Wow.
board. But I always was pretty good at test
Okay.
taking. So I did that. And then I was at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center for those 18 years. I met Richard in 1996.
Okay.
And in 2005, I went to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And I was there until I was 66. I went there
Okay.
when I was 53. I retired when I was 66. And I loved it.
Wow.
Cedars-Sinai for me was kind of like the Royal Ballet School.
Really?
It was like the big mothership.
funny.
It was to me the Royal Ballet School was like Juilliard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so here the Juilliard and the Royal Ballet School to me is Cedars-Sinai.
I
They're
love
such
it.
an amazing organization.
It seems like you had the same
Wow.
passion for like your second career, like in a different way maybe, but like it seemed like you also really loved that. Is that true, or do you feel like there was a stronger passion when you were in dance?
I think one of the things that really prepared me for another career, and especially in the medical field, because my mom used to say, I want to be a nurse. So that was, something I thought about.
Yeah.
That was something, and I love school. I really like school. And so I think what happened was the discipline, the mental strength that you have, the physical strength of being pretty much of a workhorse, because you have a lot to put up with,
Yeah.
really suited me. And when I transitioned into the medical world, once you learn the terminology, I was with such a wonderful team that taught me so much. And I was there for 13, 14, 15 years. And I was on a very elite team ultimately. But Cedars-Sinai has an amazing organization. You go in every day. It's like being in the Army. You learn, you get a shot in each arm, and you learn new information, and you know cutting-edge information because they have access to it. So you have to keep your game really high.
Yeah. And they have a dance medicine department.
Dance medicine department, and they also have all these specialty teams that you can come on. But now you have a productivity to meet every day. Now productivity factors in a very large percentage of your annual, and those numbers that come out are purely statistical.
And is that like number of patients you're seeing? Okay.
Number of patients, because it's all about, with Medicare patients, they need to be seen a certain amount of days a week in order to fulfill the contract. And then I ended up moving, and I had a supervisor that was a phenomenal mentor to me that loved me. I was the grandmother in my department. I was the oldest in my department, and she was like, you're going to this, you're going on this team, you're going here, you're going there. And I was in education classes at Cedars all the time because I live here and it's there.
Yeah.
So I love the education, and I was able to get all the certificates and some of the things that I needed to keep myself really going on this specialized team, heart transplant team. And that's a very specialized team. And she was very instrumental in really pushing me to up and up and up my game.
And you said heart transplant.
Yes. There's a huge heart transplant program at Cedars-Sinai.
It's just like physical therapy for people that have had that?
That's a very good question. When we had big heart transplant surgeons come in to help a pilot program for heart transplant team, they came in and said, where's my physical therapy team?
Oh, okay.
So this is physical therapy in the ICU.
Okay.
Before, during, and after transplant.
Okay.
There's a specific
that's
training. Sometimes someone comes in, we don't have a heart for them yet, so we have to put them on a machine to keep their heart going.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to work with that machine, how to take them off one machine, how to put them on another machine to go for a walk. You have to be very specialized. You work with specialized nurses. And these patients, and then they have their surgery. You work with them, you reposition them, and when it's time, you start moving them slowly. And yes, you rehab them until they can move to a medical floor out of the ICU. I've been on an airplane and I'm in Thailand, and I hear somebody saying, Reva, and I'm like, who do I know on this plane? Besides Richard. And I turn around, and there's this little Thai man smiling at me, and he says, I told you after my heart transplant that I would come to see my family in Thailand. He goes, this is Reva, and this family almost killed me. They so descended upon me. You know. And I kept in contact with some of our patients. Of all, they do many, many transplants. I would say under 200, but well over 100. I just went to a conference that they had a global, Cedars-Sinai is the one who represents it, and they bring in all the global surgeons, and it's a 2-day event from for hours and hours and hours. And boy, oh boy, they're going great guns with transplants and bridges and medicines and research and all kinds of things.
Wow.
So I've been allowed to go because I said to them, I'm retired, but I want to be able to attend all of these things, please, because my license is still active. I keep my license active. So
it's interesting to me that you didn't go into because you weren't working with dancers as a physical therapist necessarily, right?
No.
Like at all, really.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'm surprised that you didn't kind of go that route to.
It was a thought. There are dance medicine programs. There are rehab. I remember when I was teaching, I had a pair of twins, and they were 12. I taught them 12, 13, and 14, those 3 years. And they would go to New York City and go through their program, and they had fabulous training, but somewhere along the way they come back and they pick up a couple of bad habits. So you have to retrain them, right?
Yeah.
You have to kind of because they were getting a little injured.
Okay.
Having to retrain them a little bit, and it just wasn't a path that opened up for me. Not that I'm very good at teaching. I enjoy the older students.
Okay.
That
a lot of teachers do.
Yeah, I do. I don't have the gift of really helping the tiny ones, or I have a friend who's a wonderful teacher and she choreographs and she's wonderful with those age groups. Kind of sometimes they show up for class, sometimes they don't, and she's very good like that. It just wasn't a path that opened for me. I felt very lucky to find somewhere within the medical field, not to just get into the mainstream of physical therapy, but being allowed to really get into the heart of some of the specialties. Yeah. And you really feel like you make a difference. Cedars-Sinai really makes you feel like you matter. It makes a big difference. Now, you give your pint of blood every day. You hit the floor running. You have got a lot of, they like really high producers, really people that just can work their little heinies off and love it. And that was me.
Yeah.
So that's not for everybody.
Obviously. I feel like you're such an encouraging story of just work hard. I think, people who love dance might think what am I going to do after that, or but you just apply the same work ethic you put into dance, and you just applied it to a new idea that you had as something else you felt called to, and it was so practical, but also something you could love and give your whole heart to. It's so cool.
There are people along the way that definitely make a difference to get that next little foot, not so much up, back, or forward, just somewhere else to really give yourself a really good base. And I have to say, I'm very, very grateful to have been able to make a transition. That physical therapy is one of those fields that's amazing, because you can stay a clinician, you can stay bedside, you can get a health administrative degree, and you can write programs. You can start running departments. The physical therapist who was my mentor, phenomenal woman. She became the president of Cedars-Sinai's right-hand person. She was the first physical therapist in the history of physical therapy at Cedars. She wrote national guidelines for patient safety and went to Washington with them. So it's endless what you can do. Yeah. Had I been a little younger, and I would have gotten a health administrative degree, and then I would have done program writing and issues like that. I would have done that. Yeah. But, when was 66 when I retired. I had been working since, I'm 17. And Richard was already retired, and he was like, you do nothing. You just get up, you go to work.
Hard for you to do nothing.
I'll feed the cat, and you just, because it was very consuming, the work.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what, I'm 66. There's not quite, it's 9 years between us. I said, it is time for us to spend time together.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's now time for us to spend time together. And it's been fabulous. So
Aw.
don't be afraid of transition. Don't be afraid of retirement.
Yeah.
Because it's just that next little phase. And if you're lucky to have your health, I still have a couple of marbles left. And you have, obviously, someone, whether they're family or friends or loved ones, to do things with. That's another very important concept, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you meet people. Look at, I met you.
Yeah.
And we've had this wonderful conversation. And I'll take you lunch afterwards. And then
Yes.
I'm going to interview her. And I'm going to find
That'll
out
be off
about
camera,
her.
but-
That'll be off camera. That's what
Oh
I
my
intend to do
gosh.
because it's her turn.
I love your
She's
story
wonderful.
so much.
Isn't she wonderful? This is wonderful. Sit here and have
Thank you,
a
Reva.
captive audience. Someone's got to listen to me.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of people loving it and listening to it. We're finishing up, but is dance in your life in any capacity at this point? Do you enjoy going to shows, or is it still in your life? I know it's in your heart, but is it still in your life in some way at this point, or?
Well, here's the wonderful thing is that I live in Southern California,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is phenomenal. We're in New York a couple of times a year, which Richard is retired from Wall Street. And New York feels like our second home because we both lived and worked there for many years. And we love the city and we feel like locals in Manhattan. But Southern California is a phenomenal place. So I can go to Orange County to the Segerstrom Hall and see phenomenal ballet. We have the Pantages up the street. We just went to see Wicked.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to go and see Alvin Ailey. They're in town soon.
Yes, I've seen them too.
So you're here in Southern California. You have access to everything.
Yes.
So whether it's, ballet, and a lot of people ask me, can you actually sit and watch ballet without being too critical? Yes, I can.
I was going to ask you that. Okay.
Because it is hard. You sit there, and I took Richard to see, it was the National Ballet of Canada. That's beautiful.
Okay.
And we saw Mayerling, which is a very dramatic Russian chest-beating drama.
Okay.
And we sat in the 5th row at the Amundsen Center. And he sat there with me, and it was phenomenal. And I
Wow.
was just open-mouthed the whole, it was just so beautiful. And Richard would go, oh, she looks just like you. Yes, she looks like, oh. And I would go, honey, you have to be quiet.
You're like, we're close to the stage.
Calm down. It's okay. It's okay. She'd go, oh, it's just fabulous. Did you see that? And then
so
he
cool.
says to me, I wish I knew you when you were young and you were dancing. Because those pictures I sent you, he took those pictures that were fading, right? I'm
Yeah.
fading.
Yeah.
And he took them and had them in a specialized studio. They brought the picture back out and found me
cool.
and made those things are huge. He made big cardboard.
Because you met him after you were a physical therapist.
Yes.
But he probably loves the stories, and it sounds like
he
appreciates
sees all the
dance and-
stuff.
Yeah.
I just say, I wish I'd met you when we were younger and I had seen all of that.
Aw,
And I said,
cute.
well, you know what? I'm just glad we met.
Yeah. I feel like you're such a glass half full person. You're like always looking at the positive.
He's very, very positive. Women are very high drama. My first response is something is always very dramatic, and then I have to sleep on it at night. Then I can calm down, and then I can think about it.
I'm totally like that too.
Totally, and that's just the way women are.
Sometimes I have to stop myself just from saying things too quickly. I'm like, I need to process
And
this.
it's okay. He'll say, okay, so I'll come home from work, and he'll say, all right, you have 15 minutes. You can rant about anything you want. I'm right here. I'm listening. Go. And then at the end of 15 minutes, he'll say, okay, stop. Now, do I need to do something for you about this, or is this just... Was this just stuff coming out, and now you feel better? And I'd say, okay. And dancers are pretty
That
much
is so
like
funny.
that. I'd have rehearsals, and every once in a while, you're not as happy as you'd like to be, and so the ballet mistress will kind of step back for a minute and give you a little bit of room to stomp around, right? Because it's not quite, when with Pennsylvania Ballet, Eugene Normandy was the conductor of the Philadelphia Philharmonic, which was the most phenomenal orchestra. And if I would go out there and set tempo and music in a rehearsal with him, he'd be so mesmerized watching the stage, he wouldn't even conduct. He was a little man. He looked like a little tiny Santa. And he would just watch you and, darling, is that okay? We need a little slower, a little faster? What do you need? Tell me. And the musicians are going, don't take it too slow or too fast because we can't play it. And
like, don't forget about us.
Don't forget about us.
That's funny.
And so
wow.
I've just been grateful. I've been appreciative. We have our health.
Yeah.
We have our mental and physical health, and there's still a lot more to come.
Yeah.
So stand by.
Your purpose doesn't
You never
end.
know.
Yeah.
You never know.
As a last thought, do you have any advice for anyone out there that's pursuing ballet or dance in some way? Any advice?
I have known dancers that have been told by teachers and or directors or whomever, honey, go flip burgers. Go do hair. Go do something else because it's not going to happen for you. This may be true. And I have had to have conversations with young dancers at the National Academy of Arts where I've had to say, if you pursue a university and academics, you can take a degree in dance.
Yeah.
Please consider that.
Yeah.
And there's been tears. And I get letters 5 years later saying it was the best advice you ever gave me because I have a university degree. I got to do my love of dance, and I'm involved. I'm teaching. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm in cats, whatever the case may be. But I have seen some people come in that are not going to be able to pass the body line where they line you up and look at you and say, thank you, you can leave.
Wow.
Thank you, you can leave. They get in motion and they work so hard that they become phenomenal dancers. Phenomenal dancers for the record books.
Yeah.
So you have to just do what you love.
Yeah,
and
find
you
your own
hear
path.
this all the time.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to withstand a lot of all the ins and outs of any little career.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good review, a bad review, something you hear, people who love you. I always had one big fat wing-dinger of a fall in rehearsal once a year.
Really?
I'd go flying and bounce off the wall because it just wasn't going well. And then I'd get up, dust my butt off, and go, well, I'm glad that's over with because now I don't have to worry about that for another year. So
Okay,
it's
met my
going to
quota for the
happen.
year.
Once in a while, you're going to have a little fall. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So,
Yeah.
just keep good people around you.
Yeah. You would say,
Do
I mean,
something you love.
yeah, you're not discouraging people to keep pursuing dance, but you're
No.
saying find a way to do it that makes sense. That's where you're going to succeed in life.
It is a wonderful platform, a wonderful foundation that will allow you. Ballet allows you and dance allows you to do anything.
Yeah.
Because you have physical and mental discipline.
Yeah.
You meet people. It opens up a whole world. And there's a lot of wonderful people out there. As I get older, I have found that I spend a lot of less and less time with people who are negative, whether they're friends or family or loved ones. And I really, really spend my time with things I love, which is dance, things when I want to learn, and the people that are around me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just get up, dust yourself off, have a good cry, get over it, get up, and you hear at the Oscars, people stand up and go, well, I've been in this craft for 30 years.
Yeah.
And here I am.
You're like, here I am.
I'm not but dance is out there and it's going full gun.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Go for it because who knows where it can lead you.
Yeah.
And it gives you so many wonderful tools. You build a nice toolbox.
Yeah.
And it's really worth it. Dance is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful, if I would wish anything for young people, it would be to find something they love and a talent that they love young. And they can go full bore. I mean, I didn't hang out after school. I was in class.
Yeah. But you
So
don't regret it. You loved
different.
it.
It's a little
Yeah.
It's a little different, and yeah, it's different, and you all have the same pursuit. You look around the class, you look around rehearsal, you look around on stage. When you're doing your performances, and when you're thinking, well, it's not so special because everybody else around it is doing it as well, but it is special.
Yeah, you forget because you're around so many people like yourself, but it is different.
When you're young and you have something like that, it really is wonderful. It really sets you up well for life, I think.
Yeah.
Even, no matter what kind of path it takes you on, that's really hard. It's hard. I like to have control. That's something you don't always control in dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think, I'm talented, I should be doing well, but so is everybody else really super talented too. And you learn that in these big schools.
Yeah.
But you have to have opportunities, don't you? Have to have
But that's what's so great,
opportunities.
especially about being out here, is there's so much dance opportunities. So even if you haven't done ballet your whole life, there's so many amazing adult ballet schools that encourage adults who started later, and they do shows. They put them in shows here, like just to give them opportunities. And there's all kinds of things. So even if it's amazing if you can find it when you're young, and if you're like so talented and work so hard at it, but then it's also cool that someone could find it later, and there's still opportunities to learn and grow where you're at. And like you were saying, it helps your mind and your physicality. So even if your end goal isn't a professional ballet company, you're still getting the discipline experience, the mental, it helps you mentally, it helps you physically, and you can apply that to anything. So, and it gives you a community. So
That's right.
it's just really a great
I'm
thing.
certified in Pilates, and I did that
yeah, that's
because
right.
I don't like the people who'll do a weekend course and then they're certified in Pilates. I did my training for 4 months.
Yeah.
And I had to be signed off by a master teacher. And the reason I did that, and I have an Allegro, which is a type of a reformer, is because I would prefer people like me to be out there helping people with mat exercises and then get on a reformer rather than people getting hurt.
Yeah.
And that Pilates is a big thing. People love that. And you can do that at any point in time.
Yeah.
And the bar, you can go and do bar. That was a big thing for a long time where you could just go do a bar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. That would be amazing. So I'm less plugged into those type of things here but when I came out here, I was sort of back on the medical track. I knew that more like most dancers, the kind of the whole New York scene. And yeah. But you've got the modern dancers, you got the ballet dancers, you got the jazz dancers, you got the Broadway dancers, you got the off-Broadway. And out here it's more screen time, more TV, more things like that. But it's a different industry. And some people are purists. You're either classical or some people are very talented and can really do a mixed bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people did. They said, hey, I'm going to Broadway. I've done Cats for how long, and I love it. Or they'll move on. There's lots of people that'll share their experience, and whatever makes them happy, whatever, everybody's just trying to do their best.
Yeah.
People are just trying to support themselves. They're just trying to live their life. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And everyone has a story.
That's what we're trying to show here on the podcast.
So don't count out the. If I had to continue in medicine, I would have really concentrated on gerontology, because when I listen to my older patients, and if I don't ask them about their life, they're not going to tell me.
Yeah, interesting.
And when they tell me their life, I have a book from an Auschwitz survivor, one of the oldest.
Wow.
That was my patient. I wouldn't have known, but I did see his tattoo. And he gave me his book that he wrote, and he signed it to me. And someone I met in New York, the same thing. She was in the camps when she was 13, the only one to survive. She wrote a book from Auschwitz to Zabar's. And Zabar's is a very famous deli in New York.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows Zabar's who knows New York. And she wrote her book and gave it to us. So
That sounds good.
the gerontology, the older population have some pretty phenomenal stories.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing yours.
Oh,
even though
too much
you're still a
information,
youth, but
It's been a pleasure.
well, yes.
How fun is this?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Reva, for
Thank
just
you.
honoring me with your presence on this podcast and like your story and all your experience. And I hope you guys all just gleaned so much from this. I know I did. And yeah, if you
Thank
have
you.
any, I think Reva's not really on the social media, but if you guys do have any questions or any more curiosities you have about her, drop a comment on the YouTube channel and we'll try to get some answers for you. So thank you guys for watching. Like and follow and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dance, 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 dance.